Imagine this. Years of planning, hundreds of millions of dollars, the weight of a nearly century-old legacy, all potentially unraveling because of a few sentences spoken in casual interviews. That's the breathtaking scale of the crisis that engulfed Disney's live-action Snow White remake, a controversy triggered not by a leaked script or production drama, but by the very star tasked with bringing the iconic princess to life, Rachel Zegler. Her seemingly offhand remarks about the original film lit a fuse, sparking an inferno of online outrage that threatened to scorch the film's prospects long before anyone could even buy a ticket. The moment the fire started gaining traction traced back to press appearances where Zegler shared her vision for the character and spoke candidly about the 1937 classic. It wasn't just a simple update, it was a critique. Her characterization of the original film's prince as basically a stalker landed like a shockwave, immediately interpreted by many as a disrespect to the source material. She emphasized that the new Snow White wouldn't be defined by romance or the pursuit of a prince, but would instead focus on her own journey towards leadership, guided by her late father's memory. While intended to highlight the film's modern, empowering themes, these comments felt like a direct challenge to the core narrative that had enchanted audiences for generations. For lifelong Disney fans, these weren't just story beats, they were cherished childhood touchstones, memories tied to family viewings and simpler times. Hearing the star dismiss the central romance felt, to them, like someone carelessly discarding the heart of something deeply precious. The internet, however, is a machine built for amplification, especially of anything that sparks strong emotion. Clips of Zegler's comments, often edited into rapid-fire montages and shared across platforms like TikTok and Twitter, went viral with astonishing speed. Context evaporated, replaced by concise, explosive sound bites. The outrage machine kicked into overdrive. Users coined derogatory nicknames like Snow Woke, accusing the film of shoehorning contemporary political correctness into a classic tale that, in their view, needed no such intervention. The simplicity and perceived innocence of the original were held up in contrast to the perceived heavy-handedness of the remake's stated themes. Within hours, these viral snippets became the narrative surrounding the film, drowning out any other discussion about the production's artistry or intent. The online backlash didn't stop at the initial comments, it became a full-scale scrutiny of Zegler herself. Fueled by algorithms that favor controversy, users dug through every available interview and public statement she had ever made, searching for inconsistencies. They zeroed in on moments where she expressed seemingly conflicting feelings about the original film. For instance, stating in one place that the 1937 animation terrified her as a child, while in another, fondly recalling riding the Snow White attraction at Disney World. To many online commentators, these weren't innocent memory lapses or differences in framing. They were seized upon as potential evidence of calculated opportunism, suggesting she was tailoring her story or opinions to suit whichever audience she happened to be speaking to at that moment. True or not, in the court of public opinion online, perception became reality, hardening sentiment against her in the film. Adding another layer to the unfolding drama were the hushed whispers and speculative reports circulating within Hollywood itself. While difficult to verify with certainty, rumors emerged suggesting subtle friction among peers, notably an alleged indirect critique from actress Jenna Ortega. Regardless of Ortega's true intent, the story was framed by some as a talent versus talent narrative, suggesting not everyone in the industry was aligned with the approach taken. More broadly, industry veterans and commentators watched with growing concern, issuing public warnings. In the hyper-connected age, they cautioned, an actor's public persona and viral soundbites could inflict significant damage on a film's prospects long before it ever reached theaters. Bad buzz, amplified endlessly by social media, was becoming the ultimate pre-release poison. This escalating crisis didn't just stay online, it sent shockwaves straight to the executive suites at Disney. Reports indicated emergency meetings were convened as leadership grappled with the fallout. Damage control specialists were brought in. Debates reportedly raged internally. Should they try to pivot the entire marketing strategy? Could they shift focus heavily onto co-stars like Gal Gadot, already beloved for her Wonder Woman role and playing the iconic Evil Queen, framing the film as a power? To truly understand the visceral reaction to Zegler's comments, one must revisit the almost mythical origin of the 1937 Snow White. It wasn't just Disney's first animated feature, it was Walt Disney's legendary gamble. He mortgaged everything, convinced his family and financiers to risk ruin on an unproven art form. Hollywood laughed, calling it Disney's folly. Its unprecedented success didn't just save the studio, it invented the animated feature as a viable art form, revolutionized storytelling, and solidified Disney's identity as a creator of magic and dreams. It established the princess archetype and set the template for countless films that followed. For generations of families, watching Snow White is a ritual, a connection to the past. Tampering with that legacy, especially in a way that feels dismissive, strikes a deeply personal nerve, touching upon nostalgia, tradition, and a protective instinct for something seen as fundamentally good and pure. When Zegler appeared to lightly mock aspects of that origin, critics felt it wasn't just a modernization, it was a condescension towards the past. Her defenders argue forcefully that stories must evolve, that portraying women pursuing goals beyond romance is a necessary progression for modern audiences, particularly young girls who need diverse role models. They frame the backlash as resistance to progress, a clinging to outdated ideals. However, even some voices sympathetic to the idea of an updated Snow White expressed concern that the execution, based on the star's comments and reported plot details, seemed heavy-handed. Had Disney swung too far, trading one simple romantic ideal for another blunt, independent one, losing the delicate balance and universal appeal that made the original timeless? The perception, again, was that the film might be lecturing its audience rather than enchanting them. The ripple effects of this controversy extend far beyond the silver screen. Disney is a global brand built on universal recognition and affection, deeply intertwined with childhoods and family experiences. When a project becomes embroiled in a polarizing culture war skirmish, it threatens that carefully cultivated image. The potential damage isn't limited to box office numbers. It touches everything from licensing agreements for toys and apparel to future theme park attendance and merchandise sales worldwide. Retail partners watch social chatter closely, adjusting orders based on perceived public sentiment. A dip in demand for Snow White-themed products could cost millions, impacting supply chains and forcing uncomfortable conversations at the highest levels of the company. Shareholders, already sensitive to market fluctuations, are reportedly paying close attention, increasing pressure on leadership to navigate this minefield without permanent brand damage. The stakes involved aren't just theoretical, they're measured in potential billions. At the epicenter of this perfect storm remains Rachel Zegler, navigating a PR tightrope walk that few young actors have faced. Every statement she makes is amplified, dissected, and judged. Public relations professionals know this kind of backlash requires careful handling, perhaps a strategy involving a measured statement acknowledging the original's cultural impact while expressing genuine enthusiasm for the new film's message. But apologies or clarifications in the digital age are double-edged swords. Too much contrition can validate the critics' claims, while too little can appear arrogant or dismissive. For an actress whose career is just beginning to soar, balancing authenticity with the immense pressure to protect a massive corporate investment is an almost impossible task, one that will undoubtedly be studied for years to come in media training sessions for aspiring stars. The controversy also highlights the accelerating feedback loop between social media and traditional news. As the online outrage grew, it became impossible for mainstream media outlets to ignore. Morning shows dedicated segments to the debate, cultural commentators weighed in, opinion pieces flooded newspapers and websites, and cable news pundits, eager for ratings, framed the story within broader cultural narratives. Each piece of traditional coverage legitimized the online discourse, driving more traffic back to social platforms where the cycle of amplification and outrage continued unabated. The sheer volume and speed of the conversation completely overshadowed any potential discussion about the film's actual artistic merit, its cinematography, its musical numbers, its production design, reducing months and years of creative labor to a debate about a few viral sound bites and perceived thematic missteps. Within Disney's creative departments, post-production work continues. Visual effects are being layered, the score finalized, but it's happening under a heavy cloud of uncertainty. Will their artistry be seen and appreciated, or will the film